Welcome back to Chime In. Welcome, you guys. We're going to be talking about this evening the current state of the election. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and start sharing our Facebook Live. We will have a guest with us. She'll be joining in later. For those of you that have joined us in the past, you will remember her. She is our Georgia representative, Donna McLeod. So we're really excited that she's going to be here with us this evening. When she arrives, we will plug her in and we'll be able to ask her some questions. In the meantime, I'm asking the host to go ahead and share their live feed. And while they're doing that, I will introduce myself. Hi, I'm Celeste Day. I'm sorry. Welcome to Chime In.
Hi, my name is Andrea Caesar. Welcome to Chime In.
Hi, I'm Julius Caesar. Welcome to Chime In.
Hi, I'm Glenn Frazier. Welcome to Chime In.
All right, so I'm hoping you guys remember that we're looking for you to share your comments, give us questions. We will answer your questions. We'll share some questions with Donna when she arrives as well. So feel free to hold those questions for her if you'd like. There's so much going on, and I know that everyone is excited and happy and exhausted all at the same time. Some of the things that you guys, just to remind you, that have been happening over the last few days and since our election and the announcement of our president-elect. So the Attorney General William Barr appeared to throw support behind President Trump's allegations of voter fraud. The lead Justice Department official sent out a memo to the U.S. attorneys allowing the federal prosecutors to look into substantial allegations of voting irregularities if they exist. So this bizarre move led to the resignation of the department election crime director, who stepped down from his position in protest. For days now, everyone knows that Trump has refused to concede the election to President-elect Joe Biden and has repeatedly made claims about election interference and voter fraud, despite no evidence to substantiate any of this. Trump gave Defense Secretary Mark Esper the pink slip. The two of them have been at odds for a while, as you guys know, since Esper disagreed with sending troops to several racial justice protests around the country. And it seems as though Esper is not really that upset. There's reports that he already had a resignation letter saved in his drafts. So there is so much going on and so much to talk about. So don't forget to send your comments. We're going to just kind of kick it off with Andrea asking you to kind of share your thoughts and then present any questions you like.
Glenn, do you think the Republicans have any grounds for a lawsuit right now?
Well, do they have any grounds for a lawsuit? They probably don't, but I'm sure they'll find something. You know, for the whole presidency, Trump has, like I said, he's pushed the envelope and he has refused to concede. He claimed victory the night of the election, and he laid the groundwork prior to the election for what's happening right now. He put the new Supreme Court justice in, so if anything goes to the Supreme Court, it'll probably come in his favor. So, do they have grounds? I don't think they have grounds, but I'm sure they'll find something, and he's going to find some way of, you know.
I think there's numerous lawsuits that they started, that they sent out. They're just trying to build stuff up just to make sure just to see if they could come up. They're fishing, hoping they find something to come up for like something substantial for a lawsuit.
Well, I think they're making stuff up too, not just fishing. I think they're going to make stuff up just so they could have that lawsuit. So.
Yeah, I just don't see it getting past the state level, because most state Supreme Courts, after the state Secretary of State certifies the election, most of them are not going for this foolishness going on right now. Most of them, it'll be shut down at the state level. And even if something goes to the Supreme Court, I don't think they're going to even pick it up. Quite frankly, I think they will look at it as a joke and not want to waste their time. However, if they do pick it up, and for some reason, because he's loaded the courts, they decide to go ahead and give this election to Trump, I think the country will change as a whole. It's going to be not the America that we used to. America will be very, very different because there will be no rule of law anymore. We'll all be about backdoor deals.
He broke every law that there is.
Well, so we elected. So the people have elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So we want to congratulate them. The first woman of color, the first female, the first woman to be vice president and a woman of color. So we want to congratulate them. And the state of Georgia, although they're still counting, we flipped the state blue, which is a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy.
It's clear that this state has been flipped blue because we've seen a lot of blue shirts up here tonight. We just wanted to represent the color of Georgia, which is blue. It used to be red, it is now blue, officially blue. So we hope.
I was waiting for Donna, if you guys remember, that was the comment that Donna made to me when we had one of our chime-in sessions with her, when she said to me, Celeste, you can't go to Massachusetts to vote. Yes. Georgia needs your vote, right? Yeah. And I voted here. You guys remember, I told you so.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We want to thank everybody who came out and voted and made this happen, made it possible. You know, I'm still in disbelief that we were able to flip Georgia. You know, it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
And ladies, congratulations, especially black women, congratulations. You all were true to form. You all went out there and voted in numbers. And not only did you go out and vote in numbers, you did take some of these men with you. So I am absolutely proud of what women was able to accomplish in Georgia, especially Stacey Abrams.
Yes, big shout out to Stacey.
Yes.
She's the VIP.
Yeah, well, I think after they stole the election from her, the gubernatorial race 2 years ago from her, instead of giving up, she pressed on, and she's been in the fight since then, trying to for voting rights. She's been pushing for these different laws to be changed, and she's got people out to the polls, and we had a record number of people vote this year, and that's
has to do with her.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reason why the voting went much smoother than before is because of Stacey Abrams. She's in the background making sure everything works the way it's supposed to work and everything. There was no hiccups like people standing in line for 3 hours, and so she was the force behind all of this, just to make sure we get to vote and make sure our vote do count.
Okay, so what do you think the first order of business will be and should be for bridging the gap between Democrats and Republicans? What do you think, Julius?
Well, I think Biden pretty much touched on it. He said he's going to go ahead and reach out to the other side of the aisle and try and work with his opponents. We're not enemies. It's two parties. So now that America has decided who the president is, I think the right thing to do is reach out to Republicans and try and work with them, especially on infrastructure, on health care, and some other things that there's some common ground on. However, I really and firmly believe that is not probably gonna happen. I believe the Republicans are gonna dig in and not want to work with him the same way they did with Obama. And at that point, if for any reason he gets the indication that they don't want to work with him, take off the gloves. Democrats tend to be too nice in Washington. You know, take off the gloves and go for yours. You know, executive, whatever you got to do, right? Whatever you got to do to make it work, you take the gloves off and you go for it and make it work. And that's how I feel. A lot of it may be coming down with a lot of executive decisions and declarations, but whatever it takes, make it happen and do what you got to do. Yeah.
Well, the new president-elect has already said that he has several executive orders that he's going to implement as soon as he gets in office. I know one of the things is a DACA. He's going to reverse that ruling.
Real happy about that.
The travel ban on the Middle East, he's going to reverse that. It's several things that he talked about that immediately will be reversed. And, like you said, he needs to take the gloves off. Trump showed us that, he did whatever he wanted to do. I think, like you said, we play too nice, right? Yeah, so we need to take the gloves off, and we need to play as dirty as they've been playing, and, do what we need to do to get what we need to get accomplished.
I don't think anyone could get as dirty as Trump.
Well, no, because he has no moral compass. So he has no character. He has no ethics. So, you know, that's the difference. Is you know, he's I think he has showed us what the worst could be like. You know.
I think with Trump going around having rallies without masks and knowing that there's COVID out there, and he's telling everyone, you don't have to wear a mask, and people are getting sicker and people are dying. Right now, COVID number is the highest it's been. And I think mostly because of all the campaign that he had, and they were not wearing any masks at that time.
Well, I think everybody's trying to get back to life as it was, and that's just not possible. And people really don't understand it, and they're, you know, hanging out, and, you know, like, you know, there's not a pandemic. It's probably not hit home yet for a lot of people, but until it does, they'll continue to do that. So, you know, they said there's a vaccine that's on the horizon that's 90% effective.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens from here.
That's where that leadership comes in. And if Trump had shown leadership from day one, we wouldn't be having, you know, 10,000 cases a day or 100,000 cases a day as we are now. I'm not saying we wouldn't have COVID here. We would have COVID here, but it would be a lot lower. And I think with Biden coming in, he's going to do some things and put some things in place, not by a state by state and a city by city action, but by a United States of America action. In that way, it would bring it down overall and then keep it down overall. Yeah, the key to opening back up and becoming back to normal is basically doing what it takes to bring the levels down to a manageable amount. And I think that'll happen now.
And individually, and individually doing what it takes to keep yourself and each other safe, right?
True.
And that's the key too. Yes. What you're talking about is, you know, people getting comfortable and getting exhausted from being isolated and wanting to get out, but, you know, needing to remind people that tomorrow, you know, you want to be here tomorrow, right? And so just be careful today, and a vaccine will be here. So let me ask you, Glenn, when we talked about these conversations, you talked a lot about all of the rhetoric, and I hear people talking at this table about all the things that, you know, Trump says. What do we need to do and tell our community about all the things you're hearing about, right? Because we hear a lot, right?
I'll tell you what I say.
Yes.
He says, stand back and stand by. I say, stay woke and stay ready. And that's me.
Yeah.
I think that those threats are viable threats. I think that there are some fanatics out here that will try to do something crazy at some point. I don't trust going in large crowds right now. I think that, but I think that we, you know, as a government, they oversee a lot of, you know, these threats, and they know that they're happening before they happen. So, you know, but I think we still need to stay vigilant about it.
Yeah, but that's a very good, valid point, because when there was threats against the governor, the FBI caught that before it happened and prevented it from happening and arrested everybody. So if there's some viable, credible threats out there, I'm sure they will jump on it right away and try and prevent it before it happens. But if it does happen, like Glenn says, stay ready at all times, because you never know. You just never know.
And with him not conceding, he's just adding more fuel to the fire. You know, he's inciting his followers. So.
But I think that is the whole objective here. He knows that he's lost this race. He knows that he's out of office. But because he's preached for so long before the election that it's going to be a fraud and they're going to have all these fraudulent votes, he can't just walk away without continuing this, you know, scenario that he created for his base. And then hopefully after he rallies up the base, he figures they'll come out to vote in Georgia for the two senatorial races coming up. But we firmly believe here in Georgia, since it's a blue state now, that we're going to be sending 2 Democrats to the Senate which is going to help Biden immensely. It's going to help him to govern. Without those 2 senators going to the Senate, Biden is going to have a very hard time governing.
Yeah.
So that's our next order of business. We need to get out here on January 5th for the runoff. We need to vote. We need everybody who came out before to come out again, but we also need you to bring new people to the poll. Get a friend who's not registered to vote. Register them to vote. Get them registered. Let's bring them out to the polls because we have to get those two senatorial seats.
November the 5th, you could start requesting your absentee ballot. December the 17th, deadlines for voter registration. December 14, early voting begins. And January 5th is election day. So before all the baby mama, get your boyfriend, get your ex-boyfriend, get everyone. And we did it once already, and let's do it again.
Well, the challenge is everybody who voted already on November 3rd and then by absentee ballot for this election, if everybody does the same thing and vote again, the challenge is find somebody who is not registered to vote, get them registered, and it doesn't stop there. Get them to go out and actually vote. If each of us do that, we'll by and large double the amount of people who voted last time for Warnock and John.
Yeah. So I've already sent out the voter registration link to several of my friends. I'm gonna continue sending it out. I'm gonna make sure that they sign up. We've had conversations, so I think they understand now that just the general election for the president is not the only important election. Every election is important. The state, the local elections, those are important too. So, you know.
I like that, Glenn. I'm talking about everybody going out and recruit one person, get them registered, and make sure they vote. Glenn is thinking big. He's going for like 25.
Everybody, because you know everybody's not going to register. So, you know, you have to play the numbers.
Shoot
so,
for 30 and you might get 20.
Yeah.
Republicans, they're very forceful, and they're going to have everyone in every corner giving everyone a reason, every Republican a reason to go out and vote. So they will be out there doing their work, and there was 70 million people that went out and voted for Trump. So there's still a lot of people out there who are Trumperized. So they are going to go out and vote. So we need to do due diligence and get out there and vote for the upcoming election.
So, Julius, now that Joe Biden is president-elect of the United States, do you think he should pursue Medicare for all or strengthen Obamacare?
Well, that's a two-edged sword. I think if he's dealing with the Republicans, he needs to go strengthen Obamacare and make it where it close all the loopholes, make it where it's soundproof, foolproof, where they can't mess with it again. But if the Republicans fail to play ball and they don't want to negotiate and fix Obamacare, and they'll be fixing some of the damage they did to it and make it even better. If they don't want to do that, then Medicare for all is a good option because a lot of people think a Medicare for all is going to be very costly and it's going to be, you know, a big burden. There is so many retirees and elderly people on Medicare right now, and they all love it. Their children love it. All their family members love it because it's a very good program. They negotiate good rates with doctors, hospitals, prescription drugs, everything. If we can make this on a grander scale, I think it could work. Keep in mind that we all right now pay into Medicare.
Yes.
So it will just be changing the rates for the people who are already paying into it and make it available at all times for everybody. And still, you should still have an option not to do Medicare and go with your private insurer if you so choose. And if you're going with your private insurer, then you shouldn't have to pay into Medicare. Or if you pay into it, it's a much lower rate for when you retire. But it could come up with a system that should work for everybody.
There's a lot of country who has universal medicine, and if you need something and the country cannot offer it to you at that time, or they have a schedule that they put you on, and if you think you need it more urgent, then and you have the resource to go to another country to pay for it, then you could do that. But I think Medicare for all would be a great thing. At least everyone have access. There's a lot of people here who don't have access, and they are the the minorities who has the most, like Black and Hispanic. They're the one who has the most medical illness, and they're the one who don't have the access to health care. So that would be a good idea.
Well, that's wishful thinking. You know, I mean,
I agree.
We just gotta hope for the best.
Yeah.
I agree. And he's going to be pushed by the far left to do this because he got a lot of support from the far left when he was running for election. It's not like when Hillary was running, the far left just said, no, we're not going to vote for her.
Yeah.
He got a lot of support from the far left, and hey, they'll be pushing for that.
Yeah.
So if the Republicans don't want to play nice and work on Obamacare and fix it, this is the alternative.
Well, winning these 2 Senate seats in Georgia will make that so much easier.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
You know, one of the issues we had with the Obama administration was that his hands were tied. You know, the Senate knocked everything down that he proposed, so he couldn't really do much. People don't understand that. You know, a lot of people say, well, Obama didn't do this, he didn't do that. He couldn't. You know, the Senate just blocked everything he tried to do. But if we win this Senate race in Georgia, we have the House, and we have the Senate, and we have the presidency. So Joe Biden will be able to do everything he wants to do, basically. And that's what scares the Republicans so much.
Well, I was going to say, but do you really think that, right? So we talked about this as well. Everything that I've read talks about that the last couple of years, there's just been so much opposition and bickering. And so what you're suggesting is that that will change because people will be more aligned. But do we really think that they're going to make changes? I mean, part of my challenge is that we hear things, people are talking. You just talked about Medicare for all. We just talked about potentially revising Obamacare. There's like the devil's in the detail. There's a lot that goes into those things, right? And so even if you are of the same party, do we really think that we're going to see significant change? I mean, that's what we really want. That's what we're talking about.
I personally do. I think we're going to see significant change. It's not going to, everybody's not going to get what they want, but I think we'll see some change.
I think anything is better than Trump right now.
Yeah, we'll see some change. I mean, a lot of people have the mindset, forgive all student loans and all colleges free and all that. No, but I could envision forgiving $5,000 in student loans and you pay the rest. Or saying, okay, your first 2 years of college are free and then you work on the rest. There's got to be some kind of version where we could come up with a compromise and meet halfway and make something happen. Because the people need, there's a lot of people in need of help out there.
Well, there has to be a balance where we don't put the country in a large deficit.
Well, the Republicans already did that.
Well,
the so-called conservatives have us in a big deficit. And if you look back in history, right, Clinton left a surplus. Obama left a surplus. What did the Republicans, every time they leave office, leave us with? A deficit.
Yeah, they blow it.
A big deficit.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. So go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. So I heard you say compromise, so I'm going to remember that because I do think that that is the key word. I was looking for that word to come out because that's what we haven't had, right? Because that's what we talked about. We haven't had the ability to have reasonableness, and I think we talked about last night that, you know, all of the rhetoric and all of the things that we hear, how do you know what to believe, right? The reality is that I think it feels like the past presidency, I'm going to call it that, has thrown things at the wall and just hoping something will stick. And if it's a little plausible, then he's doing what he needs to do, right? Because he's a good marketer and he knows how to sell himself. And he's been able to do that. So we're looking for the change that our new president-elect and vice president will be compromising, will be thinking about what the priorities are. So I really would like to talk to you guys about what's the priorities. Do we think those are, other than healthcare? So we talked about healthcare and Obamacare, or what the new version potentially would be. That's one priority. I heard you mention DACA, so immigration. What are some of the other priorities that we think are really important for them to?
So the economy is definitely a priority.
Yeah.
COVID-19 is definitely a priority. Those are big things. I think with this election, Republicans only looked at the economy. The economy is doing well, and that's what they're concerned with. You know, there's a lot of other issues that the Democratic Party was concerned with and the voters. So that's why Trump lost. That's why all the Republicans in the House and the Senate, they retain their seats, because the Republicans look at the economy and they like what they see. But a lot of them can't align themselves with Trump because of his character, you know, and how he's ruled basically for the last 4 years, you know.
Very true, very, very true. I think COVID should be number one.
Okay.
And then after COVID, the economy. And we shouldn't have any problem having an agreement on that, because if they do an infrastructure bill, there's lots of roads and bridges, especially bridges and government building that need some revitalization. If they go off and do those things, there'll be money going back into the economy, and we should be good.
So some of our guests are saying that police brutality should be something that's important and should be addressed. And Ian, thank you for your comments. Ian said Biden will be more aggressive than Obama.
I absolutely agree.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But take in consideration that Obama's hands were tied. He could not. There was a lot that he wanted to do, but he couldn't get it done. So
I don't agree.
His hands were tied, and I think he was a little timid being the first black president, that he didn't want to, you know.
He didn't want to do any harm, and he didn't want anybody to feel, hey, as a black man, I'm in here, and somebody labeled me a racist or helping black people too much. You know, he ended up being feeble and weak in the end, just like Jimmy Carter. That's why he was a one-term president.
Did you just say he became feeble and weak?
Yes, that's what I said.
Who was a one-term president?
Jimmy Carter.
Oh.
Oh, is that who you're saying was feeble and weak?
Yeah, if Jimmy Carter.
Did you see me? Did you see me?
When Iraq.
I thought he was talking about President Obama, guys.
Well, he did compare him to Jimmy Carter.
Comparison.
I did compare him when Iraq went ahead and Iran went and took those hostages under Jimmy Carter's watch. Had Jimmy Carter said, listen, you have until the 12th. If you don't release them, I'm going to bomb your whole infrastructure, your oil fields, and every business you have. And after that, if you kill any one of them, for every one you kill, I'll drop a bomb in your major city. They would have released them already. He was too weak. When Reagan won and was about to go in, Reagan said, listen, you have until I get sworn in to release those hostages, because if I come in and you still got those hostages, they'll be held to pay. 2 days later, all the hostages came home.
Yeah.
Go figure. You have a big stick, you got to be prepared to use it. You can't be a president saying, no, I don't want to go to war, I want to maintain the peace, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, I want to be Mr. Nice Guy. I think Obama
But it's not an independent decision. There's a collective there. There's not an independent decision. There's a collective.
The president.
Well,
you have influence.
Yes,
I agree that there's a collective, but Trump doesn't agree with that. He made decisions on his own,
He's a one-man team.
and he made everybody follow suit. And if the Republicans didn't follow suit, he got them out of office.
Correct.
You know what?
So he has fired more.
That's what I was going to say.
If they don't follow suit, they're out the door.
But there is a collective. There are people that still support him. I mean, the reality is that, you know, some of that, absolutely. But there are people that agree and support him
and allow him to do that.
They allow him to do that.
I think they're scared. A lot of them, they're scared for their job, because they know if they cross him, you're going to get fired.
We're an at-will country. Yes. You can be fired at any moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to check in with my Gail, Mr. P, just to see if Donna is close to us. Remember, you guys, make sure you send in your messages. So Ian just said Obama missed an opportunity to address a human rights issue, not a black issue. Thank you, Ian.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's a very good comment.
Yeah.
That's a very good comment.
And as we said before, he was the first black president, so he was a little bit timid, not sure if he need to move right or left and what he was up against. So he was just trying to play safe.
Well, I think he dropped the ball on DACA also. I mean,
okay.
I hate to be out here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I hate to be out here just talking about Obama and some of the mistakes he made, but I'm hoping Biden doesn't make the same mistakes. But when Obama went in office, he had the House, he had the Senate. He focused on Obamacare only, the Affordable Cares Act. Everybody knows you can walk and chew gum at the same time. DACA should have been fixed at the same time, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
We make you president next time.
Vote for Caesar. I'll be your vice president.
So, Julius, I'm just going to ask you then, and we talked a little bit about this last night. Sorry. So Bongo says, how do you think Biden will handle the race issue? Who wants to answer that?
Well, he's already said when he did his speech the other night, he said that he's going to focus on the African American community because they supported him. So we expect for a lot of changes to happen when he gets in office. We expect it from him.
I was impressed how bold his
speech was.
Yes. It was bold. He was authentic. It was.
But deeper than that, if I could add to that, I think Biden should educate America. He should force schools to teach the truth about history. If school starts teaching history the way it should be taught, when I say that, both black and white history, people will come to look at blacks in a different light and maybe, just maybe, start respecting us and treating us in a different way. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. No, we can appreciate that. So I think we have Donna. Donna, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Welcome.
Welcome, Donna.
Thank you.
We're so excited to see you.
Sorry, I was caught up. We had a caucus meeting at the Capitol today, so after the election, we have to.
You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing at all. Welcome. So just remind you guys, we have Donna McLeod with us. Many of you have seen her with us before. We're super excited. She's our Georgia representative. She is always brings so much energy and so much information, so that's why we're super excited and happy to have her here with us. You know, we had this whole plan of at least my first question to you, the team said I had to ask you, and partially that's because of how much excitement you bring to us. And so I'm going to ask you now how you feel about having the first female like you of Jamaican descent, Vice President of the United States of America.
You know what? I'm happy and excited, and she's a fantastic representation. I know that she loves our culture, so I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what she's going to be doing. I think she's going to be friggin' awesome.
I heard the real Jamaican come out.
Okay, so Donna, we were just kind of in the midst of a lot of different conversations. I do have a couple of comments, and feel free to answer if you'd like. Otherwise, one of the other hosts can, and then we can jump into some other questions with you. But I want to make sure we get to our audience questions. So Brent says, what are your expectations specifically with the race issue? I hear people talk a lot, but not many people actually speak specifics.
Okay, so one of the things from me as on a state, and we've got to understand the different layers of government. So at the state level, we actually have a justice for all. Now, people got to understand legislations are not passed in a vacuum. It requires people actually negotiating and actually believing those legislation need to become law. And the challenge we have in the State House is that we're still not in the majority. So those bills that we put forward might not get to the floor because the Speaker has the ability to decide whether a bill will go into committee. Well, it goes into committee, but whether it comes out of committee and actually gets a vote. And people got to understand the actual layers of how a bill actually works. And so we do have a justice for all legislation, and you can't regulate people to like each other, right? But what you can do is create laws that actually um, um, not give them excuses for not doing and putting a penalty towards violating those laws. And so even though you cannot regulate love, you can give some kind of structure into which people have to basically live with those laws, or they pay fines and penalty. Slavery didn't end because they thought it was the right thing to do. It ended because there was an economic twist to it, and economics is always a driver of laws.
So Don, I'd like to say congratulations to you for winning your seat, for retaining your seat.
Right.
Also, I'd like you to tell the people how important this Senate race in Georgia is, this runoff with these 2 Senate seats. I need you to explain how important this is for everybody to come out.
Okay, so I just talked about legislation. It's massive. So much legislation or laws that are currently on the books are at stake. Women's reproductive rights are at stake. The healthcare law, the Affordable Care Act is at stake. There is whether we're going to put back the Voting Rights Act back together. There's so much at stake. And again, the balance of power and who gets to put bills on the floor and who gets to drive the narrative and who gets to get the things that is needed for the people to work with. So I can't tell you right now, the balance of power in the United States Senate is lying on Georgia's back. This is not an understatement. It literally is on our backs right now. And I'm not trying to create no pressure for everybody, but know this: if you don't go out and vote, we're going through in a situation where the Affordable Care Act could be struck down, a woman's right to reproductive rights could be a thing, the Voting Rights Act, in which they demolished Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act for the pre-clearance, in which states could basically create barriers for you to vote. So there is so much, and that's the crust of our republic, right? And the representative democracy is the ability to actually vote. And when we vote, we show up and we do things, we know we can actually create the kind of society that we want to see. This is monumental. John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, they're in a runoff that is going to be on January 5th. You can actually start getting your absentee ballot now.
Donna, me and Julius were talking today about, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you have a felon and you don't have any dues that you have to pay, you could vote. Because a lot of people out there think as long as you have a felony, you cannot vote.
Yes, if you're an ex-felon and that means you're ex, you're no longer anything. And it shouldn't have anything to do with dues, although some people some of these election boards will sort of act like it does. It doesn't. It actually just has to do with time, owing time to the state. So if you've completed all your time and your requirements to the state, you can vote.
And a lot of people do not know that.
Yeah, I know. And many people when I do voter registration and people that have been off papers for 10 years did not know. One of the things that I did in my first a year in session in 2019 was I actually worked with the Department of Correction and the Department of Community Services. So one of the things that I work with them to do is in their handbook is to actually tell the person who is finishing up their time that they will have the ability to register to vote as long as they're citizen and they're 18 years of age and older. And if you're 17 and a half before an election, you can register to vote as long as you're going to be 18 before that election. So there are a lot of young people out there right now. If you're going to be 18 before January, by January 5th, you are going to be eligible to vote.
So you're saying as long as they don't owe time to the state, meaning like if they're not on probation or parole?
Probation, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know. We're going to have to spread the word on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, as long as they don't own time. Probation, it shouldn't. There was nothing in the law that said that they had to pay all their fines. It's just time. Now they might get I'm not saying that some of the board of elections and places might not, and the Secretary of State might not give them a hard time for that. But if if you have no time owed to the state, you can definitely register to vote.
Great.
So,
As far as President-elect Biden goes, do you feel like he should govern from the left or the center left?
I think President-elect Biden needs to govern as a person who knows that tax-paying dollars is what is important about distribution of how we live. And this is what I'm saying. I think that the President-elect Biden needs to govern in a way that gives the bulk of the population who paid the majority of the taxes an ability to actually live, their surroundings, their life, the healthcare, infrastructure. Those are the kind of things that help and bring forth a better economy, which obviously all of us, when we contribute to our society with taxes, that is the ultimate goal, is that we want to live in a place where we can survive, that we can make a decent living. So I think the focus for him right now, and the most important thing for him to do right now, is to get this health pandemic under control. It is almost impossible to move forward unless we get this. When you're talking about 100,000 people a day getting infected with COVID, we are not going to be in a place to actually do the kind of legislation or move forward in a way that we can, that would be constructive. So the first thing, and which is something he's already started, is to start looking at ensuring that the health crisis is under control. And center, left, right, no, govern. We keep trying to think of government as if it's some kind of mismatched thing. People pay taxes, right? And when you pay taxes, you should demand a return on investment. Let me tell you where we go wrong as the voters, as the people that live in America, is that we don't keep people accountable. We don't keep the elected official accountable. So what happens is those that are at the ear of the person who's in power, that's who gets the things that they want.
Yeah.
Because majority of people don't even know who their local folks are, who their county folks are, their city. And when you talk about the presidential level, you're talking about federal resources. So the money that we send federally to the federal government, and what kind of policies and programs that those funds actually get funded. And that's the most important part. So to the left or to the right or the center, right now, he just needs to lead, because we've had an absence of leadership, period.
Yeah.
So we had a few comments. So Cosby Smiley says Biden can absolutely be more aggressive with respect to race because he can educate the masses. Exactly, Julius. He said he couldn't type that information fast enough. And Ian said, can we introduce, and maybe this is a follow-up, Donna, to the question around, kind of more specifics. And he says, can we introduce a psychological evaluation as part of the hiring process to truly determine who is policing our neighborhoods?
So let's go back to, there was a big confusion about defunding the police. We are actually talking about reform, right? Because there's a lot of times police are being called out. They don't have the resources. We had an issue in Lawrenceville where a gentleman was sleeping inside the post office. So I call up the city manager. He sends out 2 police officers. Guess what they could do? Just tell him to leave. There is no resources. So the police shouldn't be called for everything. So this is about reforming. And as far as President-elect Biden and race acknowledgement, that is something that we have to push on him. Once again, as constituents, it is our job to force elected officials to listen to what we have. And if we don't do our part, it's not going to get done because somebody else is going to be in his ears, whether it's immigration or something else. We've got to do it. If this is something that is important to us, then we have to make sure that we're calling and writing and making sure that they're clear that we are not going to sit back. He said this in his speech that he basically wouldn't be there if it wasn't for African Americans, right? He said that clearly. Now, African Americans have a job now. Once you elect somebody, it's not going to be automatic because guess what? when you're elected, you have different fractions coming at you, left, right, and center. You got people that is on, even though I might be elected Democrat, I have Republicans that are going to call me and say, I don't like this, or I'm going to have Democrats saying, I don't like this. Whoever is coming to you, and you have to listen to your constituents. Now, at the end of the day, you have to make decisions based on what is the best for your community, your county, your district, your country. So what I am really basically saying is that if we want Biden to do and put, we have to push it. Nothing in this country has ever been given and say, oh yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think those black people really helped me out, and I'm just going to just doll out some stuff for them. We still have to push our agenda and making sure that we are being heard. Because if we're not being heard, then it's not going to get done because somebody else will have the ear. So trust and believe.
Go ahead.
How would you recommend we letting our voice be heard?
So once again, first of all, you need to know the number to your elected officials, right? So the presidency of the United States, we give what people don't understand, and people think that it's Trump that was powerful. It wasn't Trump. It's McConnell. There are three equal branches of government, right? The executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. The problem we have with Trump was not Trump. It was McConnell who refused to hold him accountable because they were getting the justices that they wanted, right? So they didn't care about anything else. I don't even know how much legislation he even put on the floor. In almost, yeah, I think zero, except for the CARE Act. That was the only legislation that really actually went on the floor and was voted on. So when we get mistaken that what is really in power. So I would suggest that everybody in your phone book, you should know who your city council member is, who your county commissioners are, who your school board members are, who's your state representative, who's your state senator, who's your congressional representative, and who is the two senators. You should keep up on that, by the way, all the time, because we have two races the Senate races are coming up. If these two gentlemen win, you will have two new senators. You need to know their numbers. That's how you do. You can write, you can get their email almost if you go to house.gov or you go to senate.gov. You can actually find by your zip code, find who represents you, put those in your phone. You have to pick up the phone and call. You can also email. The more you actually, for every one email we get or one call, we're thinking there's about 100 other people that feel the same way. But if you don't call, it will never be addressed. So to actually contact your representatives, you want to contact every single person that is in elected office that serve you and keep them accountable. And so the only way to keep Biden accountable is to actually push up on the legislative branch, because he does not introduce the legislation. He can suggest something, but the legislation is going to come from either the House, mostly the House, or the Senate. And that's how you get what you want. Because let me tell you something, nothing is of value if it's not law. Period. We can put executive orders, but it ends on that presidency. Once that president is out of office, that executive order is done. You want to make things become law. And the only way for you to make things become law, you need to put forth what you want and then push your elected officials to get it done.
So Donna, do you think Stacey Abrams should run for governor of Georgia the next time around?
I absolutely do. She was incredibly instrumental in changing the look of Georgia, in the sense that when I met Stacey, and Stacey and I have had enormous amount of interaction over the last probably 6 years or so. When I met Stacey, she was the leader and I was running for thing, and so she ended up, I guess basically supporting my candidacy because there was a gerrymandering issue that happened in 2015. I went to her. I was kind of upset that the House had even the Democrats had even sided on to that. So we had some differences. But when she said she was running for governor, I actually met her at one of the supporters that live in Duluth. She had a fundraiser for Stacey. So we actually met at that point in person to talk about this. And I asked her exactly, how do you want it? How do you see changing the run for governor? Because of course, Michelle Nunn and Jason Carter ran in 2014 with this idea that they were going to change. They were going to basically, impress upon the whites that had left the party back in the 80s and 90s and became what they call them Dixiecrats, and still try to get white Democrats to come back to the Democratic Party. That was their plan, right? It failed. When I asked Stacey what she plans to do, she said, you know what? I'm going to look at those people that maybe not always voters. I'm going to try to make sure that we register as many people as possible. And then we're going to try to get those people out to vote. And what she did was, what was genius about what she did was send 1.5 million absentee ballot application. So guess what? If you were a registered voter, having that application, you don't have to worry about a polling location. You just have to fill it out, send it back, and your ballot came to your house. She did that in 2018, and it increased voter participation on the Democratic side almost 200%.
Wow.
That's simple. So she deserves a lot of credit for that, for thinking outside the box. And now, guess what? What portion of voting and the putting Biden over top? The absentee ballot process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
and I stuck with that. Anyone who knows me, I stuck with it. Even when people are online, I took my ballot down and dropped it off the Board of Elections, because I want to show that I am not going to be bullied by Trump, who's saying that it's fraudulent. It's the law. Georgia has the ability, and by the way, for most people who might not know, prior to 2018, the people that voted most by absentee were Republicans.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Kim will be very happy if Biden gives Stacey a post in his cabinet and give her one of those posts.
We got all the talent.
If Biden does not do that, Kemp is in trouble come next election.
Well, you'll have to take both. You'll have to take Stacey and Keisha.
Yeah.
I know.
We got talent. We got all the talents, and there are other people that will be capable. But obviously, Stacey has probably the best chance because her name recognition for running for governor. But so does Keisha. Keisha was very much a person who during the pandemic stood her ground against the governor. So enough respect to both of these ladies.
Yes, it's very true. So some other comments, and you guys talked about Mitch McConnell. We had a comment that Mitch McConnell cared about the third branch is for generations. So House is 2 years at a time, executive gets 4 years, Senate is 6 years with judges.
Lifetime.
Look at your face, our lifetime. Right, so it's very deliberate. I think we heard people talk about it. I think Cosby mentioned Republicans are in it for the long game. Right?
Yes, and we need to be more strategic. We have to start being strategic. Let me tell you the worst year for Democrats that happened was 2010. Because 2010, when we didn't show up, and so many people took on the kind of the mantra, President Obama has got this going on. He's in the executive branch. He's not the black people's president. He was the president of the United States. But people took on this attitude like, I'm good now. And guess what? Only 37% of people voted in 2010. Guess what happened in 2010? Census.
Yeah.
Guess what happens in every 10 years? We get to draw lines.
Yeah.
Guess what they did? They gerrymandered the heck out of Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so you can't sit back. It's every year, not just because of Trump. And everybody's motivated by Trump. If we vote consistently, we won't ever have to deal with another Trump.
I think we as a nation, we are very complacent, and even the opportunity to go out and vote, you have to be forced, you have to be coerced to go out and vote. And after you make that X, you just decide, you know what, I did my job, I'm good, I'm done. I could sit back and wait for another 4 years to come around, and then I'll go vote again.
But maybe this election has shown people, I mean, I think that this has been really enlightening, right, for people. And maybe people will really believe that their vote counts now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. I have a lot of black folks that come and said, I mattered. My vote really mattered. Yeah, it has always mattered. But and somebody said, if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't spend so much time trying to take it from you. You know, this evening I got a call coming from the Capitol because they had a Board of Elections special meeting tonight because of the election. So they're basically certifying the election, all of that. I got a call, one of the Republican Board of Elections members talking about removing the drop boxes. For real, removing it because, so it's already started. This is one of the things we can never do is take our foot off the gas with this state, because already talking about, and then by the way, it's not just the two. Let me make clear that it's not just the two Senate races that are at stake too. There is actually another runoff because they divided the elections into the state election and federal election. So both of those senators' race are federal. There is a public service commissioner race that is on December the 1st.
Wow.
Yep, it's two different elections.
Wow.
But there's two. There's a Democrat and a Republican on the ballot, and they need your vote on December 1st. Let's see if people are going to be. It's tiring, right? Because we have Thanksgiving coming up. People now are switching their gears to holiday activities. We cannot do this. We can multitask. We can do more than just enjoying Thanksgiving and enjoying. We can do more than that. We have the capability. We're humans. So we got capability.
Can you request absentee ballots for both of those elections, or just one, or just the federal?
Right now, on the Secretary of State website, I can only get it for the federal election. I went on the county board of elections, and I can get an absentee ballot for that election at the board of elections in your county. You can actually get a ballot. You can get your county ballot. But right now, it's ballot. Let me get. I'm gonna make sure I get the right. Hold on. Okay, let me get. So let me go to and by the way, if anybody needs more information, please go to my website, www.electdonnamccloud.com. My staff has already put up all of that information already on my website. But let me just quickly, tell you.
We'll make sure that gets posted on the Chime In site. So I really appreciate everybody's comments. We still have comments coming in. Donna, you're still. We'll make sure to put it on the Chime In site. We'll make sure also if people have questions, they can go to your site. And you said that was.
It's www.electdonna DONNA McCloud MCLEOD.com. I have a special sentence is all about elections that's coming up. Both of the elections are there. You can request your absentee, but there's a link to the absentee ballot as well.
Okay, thank you. We so appreciate you being with us. You know we love you. Congratulations again. You're fabulous. For you guys, remember how important it is to vote. We'll make sure that we put on the site all of the deadlines. Remember, Warnock and Osloff, the runoff is January 5th. Please get out there and vote. Know your elected officials, like Donna said, your city council, your commissioner, your state senators. It's our responsibility to hold them accountable between elections, which means you need to reach out to them, contact them, make sure they know, and we know who we have elected to support us. We thank you for joining us, and good night.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.